Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News website. I've got a special report on gold. I'm going to talk first about a series of companies that I think are very oversold and ready to bounce when gold bounces. I think we're into the start of a more bullish market for gold. And with these gold stocks so cheap right now, I think that investors can make a lot of money in the short term, as well as companies that can do very well in the long term. One thing on the trends that I find is when the sentiment is very negative for gold stocks, that's usually when I can find lots of gold stocks to talk about. And often when that happens, not long after, we see a bounce in a stronger market for gold. I think we're at one of those times right now. And I'm going to start out by talking about a series of companies. And then later in the show, I'll get into my bullish argument for the price of gold. The first company I'm going to start with today is I-80 Gold Corp. They're a very special situation stock for me. They've recently made a spectacular discovery at their Ruby Hill project. It intersected 7.1 grams of gold over 78 meters. Included in that was 10 grams of gold over 41.8 meters. These are very thick intersections of high-grade gold. And what's really impressive about it is that they've only drilled 4 holes into this so far. It's called the Ruby Deeps discovery. And I think it has the potential to be one of the most important new discoveries of high-grade gold in Nevada by a small company in many years. This project had seen past production. Then they went in and they drilled some deep holes at this Ruby Deeps target. And not only were the holes extremely impressive, but what's additionally impressive is that this project has the benefit of being able to use that underground surface mining that was done, open pit mining that was done, to get easier access to this high-grade package of rocks that they have below, found at their Ruby Deeps discovery. And I hope it's not lost on people that I think you're looking at the potential here for one of the most impressive new discoveries in Nevada in a long time. And it's held by a company that not only do they have the Ruby Deeps project and the Ruby Hill project, which has multiple zones on it, it already has resources on it in the neighborhood of about 8 million ounces. Ruby Deeps, I think, has the potential of adding to that resource quite substantially. I think what they could be looking at here is 20 million ounces plus just on their Ruby Hill project alone. Now, that in itself is a company making project, but it's not the only project that they have. They also have their Granite Creek project. And Granite Creek also saw past production. And the network of underground veins, they've drilled underneath that, and they found that the high grade is continuous. It keeps going for over 200, 300 meters more. And then they have what they're calling their South Pacific zone, which is to the north of that. And in between that, they have what they call their gap zone. And it looks like the OG zone, the gap zone, and the South Pacific zone are coming together to create a wider zone somewhere in the neighborhood of over 600-700 meters. And as they're getting deeper into that, they're getting higher grade. So they have near-term production ahead of them from this project. And I think they've got a lot of ounces ahead of them to prove up with the drill rig. One of the things that I talk a lot about in high-grade systems is continuity and predictability. They've had they have excellent continuity of the high grade, and they have learning more about the zones at depth, including the South Pacific zone. The predictability is excellent. And that's not just at the Granite Creek project. They also have that kind of predictability starting at their Ruby Hill project. And the last time I-80 Gold is a sponsor of my website, so I'm able to interview Ewan Downey on a regular basis almost every time they put out an important news release. And recently I was talking to him in an interview, and when he was talking about Ruby Deeps, he mentioned that they have another target there that they're drilling and awaiting assay results on. And I got the impression that he thinks it could be equally as important. Well, if I think that Ruby Deeps is an important discovery, if they have more of those on the project, it blows the top off this project. When I talked to Ewan about the Ruby Hill discovery, you can find that on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News on YouTube. I told him that this is remarkable. I haven't seen many like this in a long time. Thick intersections of high grade. And it almost left me speechless when I was talking about it, because we were talking about it just after the announcement had gone out. And I invite you to check out that interview, because Ewan was very wide open and excited about what we were talking about. And he really gave us some good hints as to where he thinks it's going. And when Ewan talks about, starts to lead towards future news, it's often a good sign that they'll have more good news to follow. And taking all their assets into consideration, a second thing or another thing that really excites me is that they have this centralized plant that they're going to use to produce all the gold on their various different projects. And it'll all feed into this one. So they've got the capacity to be a significant producer from all of these other deposits that they have. And so they have a runway to really close the Lassonde curve. Pierre Lassonde is a brilliant guy in the mining sector. Just Google him and you'll find out why he's so brilliant. And years ago, he did what's called the Lassonde curve. And he talks about two exciting times in the Lassonde curve. One is on the exploration success to find a mine and then putting it into production. But in between those is a 7 to 10 year period that is the development discount window. With the situations that I-80 Gold is in, they could narrow that window down to 6 months to a year and a half and start producing from these exceptional discoveries that they're making. Taking that all into consideration, I think that they are looking like a young Barrick Gold. I think that they will be a much bigger company. Their goal is to become the second largest gold producer in Nevada. The largest is the partnership between Barrick and Newmont. And to be the second largest producer of high-grade, high-margin gold has the potential to send them into a $5 to $15 billion valuation. Currently, they have a valuation somewhere around 700 million. Lots of cash in the bank to handle their bringing everything into production and continuing with aggressive drilling. So, as I said at the start, this is a special situation stock for me. I think it's the kind of stock that investors that want torque to the price of gold, but with less risk, this is a perfect potential 10 bagger or more over the next few years. And I feel very highly about I-80 Gold based on their drilling results. And again, I invite you to go check out some of the interviews I've done with Ewan. Very brilliant guy. and brilliant with mining and exploration, and a serial entrepreneur who has in his past found and built Wolfden into a company that was taken over. And he recently did it with Premier Gold. i-80 Gold is a product of that Premier takeout. They acquired the Premier Gold, but this is a group of assets that they kept and built on. And they've only been public for a little over a year. And in that year, they've done an enormous job. Recently, they got a New York Stock Exchange listing. So I think that they're on their way to becoming a much more liquid stock with a strong uptrend and the potential to become indexed to some of these big index funds that follow the mining sector and the smaller miners as well. And so I think they got a great profile of growth ahead of them, and it's a core holding, I think, for gold stock investors. The next company I'm going to talk about is a sponsor of the website called Galantas Gold. Galantas Gold is a tremendously underloved and underappreciated high-grade gold discovery company that's also on the verge of, in June, becoming a producer of that high-grade gold. Yet they currently only have a valuation that suggests that they might only be an explorer with potential. They got a $45 million valuation, but recently the trend has been bottoming and firming. And I think that's two reasons for that. One is that they are delivering a lot of high-grade gold. The second is that they're getting closer to the mining of their project, the OMA project in Ireland. Getting back to the drill results, just on May 16th, or a couple of weeks ago, they announced that they identified additional dilation zones and they drilled 21 grams of gold over 2.4 meters. They've got a series of veins with good thicknesses to them with this high-grade gold and silver. And that combination puts them in the position to become a high-grade, high-margin producer. And they're really only scratching the surface. As they get below the historical production that happened in this project, they're able to see the rock faces. And when they see that, it increases their predictability of hitting more of these dilation zones. This is an orogenic gold system. And what's important in these orogenic systems is a few things. One is that they go very deep, a few thousand meters. And inside of them, you can find these dilation zones where the rock opens up and it creates these thick intersections of high grade. One of the mines that's very well known for this kind of style is the Fosterville mine in Australia. It was also producing for a number of years, a couple decades, and then they drilled deeper and they found the Swan Zone, which was these dilation zones inside of an orogenic system. And that was a company maker for Kirkland Lake. And the Kirkland Lake was not a small company when this happened. When they started producing this extremely high grade, they were one of the strongest performers of the miners, and it had a lot to do with the Swan Zone at Fosterville. And you know, if you can make a $1 billion plus company into a multi-billion dollar company, I'm really optimistic about the growth potential of Galantas Gold, which is currently, as I said, trading at a $45 million valuation. I don't think it's well understood yet, but if they keep on consistently delivering high-grade gold hits, and they show that these are predictable and continuous, That's the making for a big mining company of the future. And so this one is also a special situation because they will have production, which will help them to fund their future production as well as more drilling. So they're not just value. I don't think their future will be valued just upon their production. I think it'll also be valued of how they can grow that production with the drilling. And so they've got a lot of catalysts ahead of them. On the immediate horizon, June, they look to be start production from their underground workings and continue to drill on the 4 known veins and look for more veins. I think they have a tremendous growth potential ahead of them and a very cheap valuation. So I've also, because they're a sponsor, I've been able to do a bunch of interviews with Mario Stefano. And Mario is a very interesting cat. He's not a geologist, but he's comes from the finance world, and he's built companies that became miners and were taken over in the past. I think this could be his biggest success yet. And he's also very knowledgeable about the price of gold. The last interview we did was just in the last 10 days or so, and you can find that at Rocks and Stocks News on YouTube. And he makes a very strong case for the price of gold going much higher. I'm going to talk about why I think it's going higher, but he talked extensively in our last interview about that and made some very strong arguments for gold and then his company in particular. And it's that combination of everything that they have going on, the news flow, which I think will lead them to a much higher valuation. I think that they're very cheap right now relative to what they have going on. And I think that gold investors would be do well to own this one as well. So next one I'm going to talk about is I'm going to go back to the theme about the Ruby Hills discovery by I-80 Gold. Just to their south is Paycore Minerals. Paycore Minerals has only become a publicly traded company in the last few weeks. And it's run by a young lady who has tons of experience in the business. She worked with the Newfound Gold people. She's worked with McEwen Mining. And when I was speaking with her on a recent interview after they had these results out, Paycore Minerals intersected 21 grams of gold equivalent over 10.1 meters at that FAD main zone, which is just to the south of the I-80 Gold's Ruby Hills project. And so now you've got 2 deposits on a really important geological trend that has hundreds of millions of ounces in it. They've got 2 that now are right beside each other that look like they've got excellent potential. The Battle Mountain Eureka Gold Belt in Nevada is very well known. And I think that these new discoveries on that belt are going to be extremely well followed in the near term. And so that's why I like Paycore. But when I was interviewing Christina, I was really impressed with how she's put the company together. They don't have a lot of stock out. They've been able to put a lot of funding together. And right out of the gate, they're hitting high-grade gold over thick intersections, 21 grams over 10 meters. A lot of people talk about metal factor, where you multiply the grams per ton of gold by the intersection. And you look at that one alone, and that's 210 metal factor. That's pretty impressive stuff. And they've got more of those kind of hits. And I think they're going to have more of them, because I don't think this is a little system that's created these thick intersections of high grade. And in addition to that, close to surface, they have an oxide target. And so they've got a potential for a really good growth profile and high grade oxide target at surface. And then this deeper FAD zone, which could be an extreme moneymaker, thick intersections of high grade gold. So in the short period of time that they've been publicly trading, they've already done some tremendous stuff, and they built the company the right way to come out of the gate and be a strong performer. And now they've delivered high grade over thick intersections in this emerging part of the Battle Mountain Eureka gold trend that I think will have a lot of investor attention. In fact, I've got one more company to talk about later that's involved in this immediate area. But I'm sinking my teeth into what Ruby Deeps is doing for i-80 Gold, what FAD Project can do for Paycore Minerals, and then I've got another company to talk about later. But getting back to Paycore Minerals, this company, as I said, is fresh out of the gate. They've got a good share structure. They've got lots of money in the bank and only a $41 million valuation. As gold gets stronger, as Ruby Deeps gets more exciting, and Paycore can continue to deliver with the drilling, I think that, you know, this is a 200 million plus valuation potential company in the near term, and that's nothing to sneeze at for investors. So this is another one that I think investors would be good to do their homework on and own some shares in as well. I'm trying to get Christina on some more interviews, so we're going to try to keep flowing with those interviews so that you can watch the development of this company that's only been out trading for a few short weeks as they sink their teeth into their project in that Eureka Battle Mountain trend of Nevada. Okay. The next company I want to talk about, in the past, they were a sponsor of the company, of the website, but they're no longer a sponsor. But I hope to have them on again in the future because I'm a very bullish, and I have been since this company was trading at around 50 cents a share. Based on a couple of things, they've got this high grade discovery with tremendous continuity of the high grade. And then they found closer to surface in close proximity to that high grade zone, they have a near surface oxide discovery that has high grades for that kind of an open pit target and could be the growth engine that of the future for Amex, and also give them access at depth to that high grade zone. What has me most excited about the project is, again, getting back to continuity and predictability. These guys have continuity from surface all the way down to 1,000 meters so far. It's an orogenic system, so they likely they can go much deeper. And sometimes in these orogenic systems, as you get deeper, you get into the super high grade. They've already got tremendously high grade in that continuous high grade zone, but the depth is wide open. In addition to that, they've got targets all over the project. In fact, they look like they have a VMS discovery of high grade copper on the project as well. So they give investors a lot of kicks at the can for this stock to have a much higher valuation. And considering what they have found so far, to see them with only a $258 million valuation, I think that this is another one with 5 times its current valuation potential. And I think that potential is pretty pretty secure because they've already drilled a lot of holes into the to the known deposits, the high grade zone, the Denise zone, and then they are currently have one of the most aggressive drill programs in Canada happening, and that's happening for a specific reason. They look like they have a high grade open pit target. They look like they have a high grade underground target. These are in very close proximity, so they have synergies. They've got the VMS discovery. They've got the potential to find more of these high-grade zones, and that combination suggests that well over $1 billion valuation is in the cards for this company, $250 million valuation currently. With all the drilling that they've recently done and are sitting in the labs awaiting results, all the drilling that they're currently doing, you know, they've got a long window of news flow ahead of them. And those are potential catalysts and drivers to a much higher valuation, as well as gold getting stronger. Again, I'm going to talk about why I think gold's going to get stronger at the end of the show. But there's a bunch of catalysts ahead for this company that I think warrants a much higher valuation, and I think we'll see that in the near term. The next company I'm going to talk about, I've talked about this company before. Orla Mining is their name, and Orla Mining is in Zacatecas state of Mexico, where they've recently brought into production the Camino Rojo mine. And what is very exciting about this mine is that this, as they get into full commercial production, will propel them to be one of the top 10 lowest cost producers of gold in the gold mining sector. That's a catalyst for, you know, big cash flow and free cash flow, and that warrants, you know, I think that will drive them to much higher valuations. They've been as high as $6 and change. They're currently trading at $4.77. When I first started following, they were still a year or more ahead of them before they would start mining, but now they are mining and they're bringing it into full commercial production. And again, they'll be one of the lowest cost producers in the business. And that leads to a lot of free cash flow. With that free cash flow, they can buy other assets, they can build other assets, they can buy back shares, they can pay big dividends. And those all are why I think the stock has got a lot higher to go than its current valuation at 1.2 billion. I mean, I see exploration companies out there that have 10 years ahead of them before they'll ever become mining companies with a similar valuation. So again, this is one that I think has less downside risk than a lot of other gold stocks and a lot of upside potential. OLA is their symbol. And again, I think they've got a lot of catalysts to move the valuation much higher. Now I'm going to, this is a group that are bigger companies, if you will, or more advanced. I want to turn into some exploration stories. But before I do, I'm going to talk about another website sponsor called P2 Gold. P2 Gold's stock symbol is PGLD. They currently have a $32 million valuation. They've got two key projects. One is in Nevada called GABS, and one is in the Golden Triangle called RAM. And what this combination at the GABS project in Nevada, they've got a lot of oxide gold there. And this is very profitable kind of mining. It's what a lot of the miners in Nevada have grown into big mining companies from starting out with oxide deposits. In addition to that oxide deposit, they got a sulfide deposit below that could lead them to many years of profitable production, and they could use the oxide at surface oxides to help them build their cash position and build their oxide or their sulfide deposit below that. And if that was the only asset, I would argue that their $32 million valuation is cheap. But they've also got this exciting project up in the Golden Triangle of British Columbia. It's early stages for that project, but it has all the hallmarks of a project that could deliver just exceptional results. They're about to get started drilling in the next month or so on that project. And why that's such an exciting project is not just the quality of the project, but the guys who run P2 Gold may not be familiar with my audience, but they should be, because one of the big winners that I picked in the past was Pretium Gold. I picked them when they were only a $2 or $3 a share stock. They had run into some problems and market sentiment had driven them down. Recently, they were bought out for $19 a share. So it was a really big winner. And Ken McNaughton and his partner, Joe Ovsenik, they were instrumental in finding and building Pretium into a mining company. So, and they came from a major silver producer. And so these guys know how to find and build big mines, big profitable mines that get taken over. I think they've got two swings at it, one with their project in Nevada and also with their project in the Golden Triangle. And they're guys who have done it before and they're hungry. They want to do it again. I've done several interviews with them because they are also a sponsor of the website. And I invite you to go to my YouTube channel, Rocks and Stocks News, on YouTube, and you can find some of those interviews that I've done with Ken and Joe. And I think you'll be very impressed with the quality of what they have, the quality of their game plan, their track record of doing it. This ain't their first rodeo. They've been to a bunch of rodeos and they think they're on to another one here. So P2 Gold, PGLD on the venture is another one I think investors will do well to own. Okay, now I want to turn to pure exploration. And the first company I'm going to talk about is Endurance Gold. EDG is their stock symbol. Again, these guys are sponsors of my website, so I've been able to do a bunch of interviews with them. And I'm very impressed with the discovery that they've made in British Columbia, in the southern part of British Columbia, about a 4 hours drive from Vancouver. I've interviewed Robert Boyd a few times now, and I expect to be interviewing him a lot as we move forward. They ran up from around 18, 19 cents when I first started following them with interviews to 43 cents. And what drove that was the intersection of high-grade gold over thick intersections. And then they did some more drilling and it's kind of expanded the zone up the hill. And then it looks like the guts of it are deeper. And they're going to start drilling. They are drilling now. And they're chasing after that one to fill in the gap of the near surface that follows the side of the mountain. So it's right underneath surface. And then where it plunges deeper. It's also an orogenic system. I talked about that earlier with Galantas. You know, the big one out there is the Fosterville mine and the Swan Zone that they found. These guys, I think, are on to something that could turn into that. And with only a $44.68 million valuation, that would mean several multiples of their current valuation. So the question is, do I think that they will find something like that? I think they've already found something like that. And now they're in the business of trying to show that they have found something like that with more drilling. The other great thing about this project is that it's in close proximity to infrastructure. The highway is right beside it. You know, these things all add up to a company with tremendous potential. I love that they're drilling right now. We're going to see some more drill results in the not too distant future, I believe. And because they're early into the drilling for British Columbia, so a lot of the labs that get backed up in the summertime, these guys are already sending them core. I think they've got a handle on the geological controls of the mineralization. I think that it's an orogenic system, so it has tremendous depth potential. And already at surface, they're finding jewelry box grades of high grade, so, and thick intersections. So that's what makes mines. And I think they've got a heck of a potential here to find a special one. And if they do, which I think they will, you know, this is another one with 10 times its current valuation potential to have a $500 million valuation. If they show that they've got something like the Fosterville Swan Zone and the potential to find more, I think is realistic. You'll see that kind of evaluation on Endurance. EDG is their symbol. Stay tuned for more interviews. Check out the Rocks and Stocks News web page on YouTube. Listen to the interviews with Robert. Robert's a very smart guy. I've known Robert for a couple decades. He was very involved with diamond exploration and development. Those little diamonds are hard to find, and it takes a lot of smarts to find them. Robert has those smarts, and now he's got his teeth into what I think could be an exceptional gold discovery of high grade. And I think it's in the right hands with someone who is very smart and can bring this over the finish line. So the next company I want to talk about is also a company that I've interviewed several times, HighGold Mining. Last year, HighGold Mining made a discovery that drove them to about $1.90 in Alaska. And as usual in Alaska, you have to wait for the next drilling season. And as they've been waiting, the stock has dwindled down to 78 cents. But, you know, they again have found something with thick intersections of high grade. They also have a resource on their project that I think that they're going to announce that it's grown quite substantially from the drilling last year. It should be out in the next few weeks. They're getting closer to drilling. And also, a lot of the companies, exploration and development companies that I follow, have had a lot of problems with their labs turning around the assay results. And the reason for that is that a lot of the bottleneck happens because there's not enough people to do the preparation. The assays themselves are not really the problem. They get done pretty quickly. It's the preparation of the rock, the core they send in to then get assayed. HighGold has saw that as a problem, and they're solving that problem by putting their own prep lab on the property. So that's going to enable them to get much quicker turnaround of assay results. And then, like, one of the things that hampered them was that they saw something that they liked in the drill core from their drilling, where they hit this high grade, but they weren't able to get back in there because the assays weren't back in time for them to keep drilling before winter set in. This year, they're going into it with much more information. and a prep lab that will enable them to get assay results back faster and follow-up drill this season. I'm expecting some exceptional news out of HighGold mining. I've done some interviews with Darwin Green. I've known Darwin Green for almost a couple of decades, because Darwin and I used to work together for a geological consulting company. And at the time, people were saying Darwin is one of the, rising geologists in the business. And I can attest to that from personal experience. Darwin is a very talented geologist. And one thing I really like about the best geologists that I've known in my career, and I've known some exceptionally good geologists, is that they are able to break down highly technical information so that everybody can understand it. And that's sort of a definition of genius that Albert Einstein talked about. And Darwin has that kind of communication skills. He can talk to the smartest people in the geological business, and he can break that technical information down so investors can understand that. And I think in Alaska, he's onto a special discovery. And then in Ontario, he has an up and coming discovery. And I think he's got the combination of two projects there that could drive this company to be a much bigger company. They currently only have a $56 million valuation, and they've got plenty of catalysts coming up. And Darwin is a great guy, and I love talking to him about what he's doing. So you can expect more interviews with me and Darwin in the future. But in the meantime, go check out my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News, and you'll listen in on some great interviews that I've done with Darwin since they made that big discovery. And I would also note that they put together a lot of financings. They've got, it's over $20 million in the treasury, and the smart money that put that money in did it at higher valuations. So here is a case where retail investors can get in at cheaper prices than the big guys did. And when I've seen that situation develop in the past, it's often a sign that the market is oversold for a specific company. And usually you'll see other companies like that. And that's often a sign that the selling pressure is too much, it's overdone, and a more bullish trend is ahead. And HighGold has the catalysts to help them drive into that more bullish market. The next company I'm going to talk about is TRU Precious Metals. TRU Precious Metals is a sponsor, and I've done several interviews with them as well. You can again find at Rocks and Stocks News on my YouTube channel. And they're in Newfoundland. And Newfoundland is a very exciting project in a couple parts of Newfoundland. On the eastern side, you've got sorry, the name, it shouldn't escape me. Newfound Gold has made some very exciting discoveries. And then more in the central part of the province, you've got Marathon, who has a multi-million ounce gold project that they're moving towards developing. To their south, they've got another project that is looking like it's got the potential to go over 1 million ounces. And then in the middle, True Gold has this big package of ground that's right along the Valentine Lake shear zone, which is the plumbing system or the big crack in the earth that Marathon has found theirs on, and this company to the south has found theirs on. Now, they're early stage exploration. They haven't drilled, I think, less than 20 holes so far. But they've got a large chunk of this crack in the earth that allows the gold-bearing fluids to come up. And they've also got the potential for copper. They found some spectacular copper at their Jacobs Pond area. Recently, they had news out about their IP survey, their geophysical survey that they've done. These guys have done some very thorough and intelligent work on this property. They've done extensive surface sampling. They have analyzed the structural story. They've done geophysics over the property, and they're developing some exceptional targets. And they're about to get cranked up with the truth machine again. They've got lots of news ahead of them. They've got money in the bank. It's probably about half of their current valuation is cash in the bank. They currently only have an $8.28 million valuation. And with the potential, I think, that they have for high-grade gold discoveries as well as high-grade copper discoveries, I think this is a name that's going to be on the radar of a lot of investors that are excited about Newfoundland, excited about gold and copper. So take a look at TRU is their stock symbol on the venture exchange, and check out those interviews that I've done with their management. The next company I want to talk about is XGC, is their stock symbol. The company's name is Xali Gold Corp. They're in Mexico. They have a project that has seen 8 million ounces of gold production from veins that are currently underexplored. They've done some limited drilling, and it looks like in these epithermal veins, where the veins come up through cracks in the earth, there's a boiling zone of where you can get the fluids that carry the gold. Usually it's about 300 meters of boiling zone in these epithermal vein systems. But what they're showing in their drilling is that their boiling zone is stacked. And that means that they can double the potential of that target inside these epithermal veins. There's been a bunch of epithermal veins found on this project. It's a prolific mining specifically on their project, and it's underexplored. They're currently working through the permitting process. I would suspect that they should get those permits in the next month or two. They're in an area where they can drill year round. And I'm expecting some special things out of this drilling. I know a lot about epithermal vein systems because I live in Mexico. I live in the state of Zacatecas, Mexico, and Zacatecas City and Fresnillo are host to some of the most prolific silver mines in the world from epithermal veins. So I've studied these very closely. This is a special project that just shocks me that an 8 million ounce producer hasn't been Swiss cheese with drill holes. But that's what creates opportunities. Xali Gold has that opportunity. They are a sponsor of the website. I have talked with Joey Fries in the past. Again, you can find that on my website or my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News. And I suggest you check out those interviews because Joey is a very smart geologist. She's been around for many years and she's very talented. And I think she's got her hands on something here that is a company maker. They currently only have a $12.7 million valuation. As they get the drills cranked up, I think you're going to see that valuation much higher. XGC is their symbol. They trade on the venture exchange. Okay. The last company I'm going to talk about is a company that I recently made as a pick. Golden Lake Minerals is a pick and a new sponsor of my website that I just interviewed a few days ago. And earlier I was talking about Ruby Deep's discovery by I-80 Gold. Then I talked about Paycore, which is to the south of I-80 Gold's Ruby Deeps, and the grades and the thicknesses that they're finding. Then to their south is Golden Lake Minerals. GLM is their symbol. And they have a lot of characteristics that are the same as Paycore and I-80. Lots of historical mining. New interpretations that are leading to new discoveries. Drilling that suggests that they're on to exceptional new discoveries. that box of checks i-80 Gold has, Paycore has, and Golden Lake Minerals have. And yet Golden Lake is a really undiscovered gem. I don't know if people understand how impressive Ruby Deeps is. I think if they did, i-80 Gold would have a much higher valuation. I think it is one of the most important new discoveries in Nevada in many years. And I think it's going to be a company maker for i-80 Gold. Then you've got Paycore. I think they've got a company maker asset. And now below them, you've got Golden Lake Exploration. Sorry, I was calling them minerals earlier. It's Golden Lake Exploration. GLM is their symbol. They've only got a $6.67 million valuation, so they're dirt cheap. They've got a bunch of pending results from drilling. They're compiling all of this vast data from historical mining, the work that they've done. And this is all, and then they've got these pending assays, and this is all going to help them vector. And maybe they can find another Ruby Deeps type discovery. And they're definitely in the right neighborhood. They're in the right geological setting. They have results from the Truth Machine that are very exciting. And they're an undiscovered gem with a $6.67 million valuation. And as they get into more drilling and hopefully they deliver some more excellent results with the drill holes that are in the lab, I think that Golden Lake is, for those investors that want to hit it out of the park by buying into a dirt cheap stock in the right jurisdiction with the right kind of geology, and this is one you want to take a look at, because you know, if they hit something exciting, it'll be multiples of its current valuation. Okay, so that's all the companies I wanted to talk about. But before I close, I believe that all of those companies are currently oversold. And when I can find a lot of oversold companies, that's often an indicator that gold itself is oversold and that gold is ready to turn around and the gold stocks are ready to outperform gold because they've beaten down so much. That's the window that I think we're in today. And I'm going to pull up a couple of charts here. You'll have to do it yourself, but one of the charts I wanted to talk about first is I'm going to take a bigger look back, and I'm going to talk about the monthly gold chart. And what I'm seeing is two things. From 2000 to 2011, we saw a tremendous gold cup and handle formation that drove it from about $250 at the bottom to nearly $2,000 at the top of the right side of that, that cup and handle for gold. The second thing I'm seeing is after that cup and handle that lasted a decade, there was another cup and handle where it came down from, let's say, 2012, and it bottomed out in 2015. And then it started to make the right side of the cup. And now you're seeing it in the handle formation. And I think the next move is another big move upwards. I'm seeing a few things in that long-term monthly trend that goes back to 1998 that gives me lots of confidence that we're getting ready for another big move. So then I want to go back, I want to look at the weekly chart. And the weekly gold chart shows the bottom of the cup, and then the right side of the handle that happened after 2020 and around in 2020, sorry, where it got up to 2100. Now, since then, it's been forming a handle. That's a very bullish technical indicator. Later, I'm going to talk about the fundamentals, but now I'm talking about the technicals. So the cup and handle had a high of 2,100, a low of 1,700. The average support level was around 1,800. Recently, I'm now going to move to the daily chart. And in the daily chart, you see the last year. In March, gold got over $2,000 again. And then it's been correcting over the last, since March, early March, until about a week, 2 weeks ago. It found support at that crucial 1,800 level again, and it's bounced up from there. I think that this is the start of another bullish trend that will take the price of gold well above 2,000 and see the valuations of plenty of these gold stocks that are oversold, move up even more significantly than the price of gold. So now I want to talk about, so I see a short-term bull developing for the price of gold based on the action in the gold stocks and the action in the gold price. Fundamentally, the argument that made gold go up to $2,100 a few months ago is still in very good shape. Let me talk first about supply. On the supply side, gold miners are going deeper for lower grade. They're dwindling their mines. The supply chain is very weak, and it doesn't look to get better in the coming decade or two. Then you look at the drivers of demand. And all over the world, countries are printing money like it's going out of style, led by the United States. You got debt going through the roof in all over the world as well. And now you've got inflation kicking up in a big way all over the world. These are a perfect storm for gold to go much higher. So some would say, well, why hasn't it gone up already? Sometimes it takes a little while before you start to see these drivers drive the bus. It looked like we saw the start of it earlier this year when gold was over 2,100. But when the drivers of that argument get in control of the bus, the golden bus, I think, is going over into the $3,000 to $5,000 level. It doesn't need that for a lot of the companies I talked about to have exceptional performance, but I think it's coming. And when it comes, those same companies that are built for success now will be even bigger successes, because a lot of what they're finding will just be, investors will be coming in droves to invest in. And the trouble is that there's not a lot of stock out in these companies, and these are relatively small companies compared to the big tech companies and the biotechs and the cryptos and all these other assets out there. And so I think you're going to have a big crowd coming and not a lot to buy. And when that happens, it will drive these stocks into overdrive. So I want to wrap it up on that and say that I think that there's a lot of oversold gold stocks right now. I think that gold is prepped for a big move short term and a bigger move longer term. And this group of companies that I've talked about, I think are going to jump on that golden bus and be worth a lot more in the near term and in the longer term as well. So as always, my shows are for information purposes only. It's important for you to speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions. Always do your homework on these companies. Check out those past interviews I've done with several of these. I think I've done interviews with all of them except for Orla. I've tried hard to get them on the horn, but they don't answer their phone that quickly when I'm calling. So, but I've done a lot of interviews that help you with your homework. You should check out their websites. I'm going to put links to where each company is in the description so you can focus on those that you know about or want to know more about. And on that note, you have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. And thank you very much for listening in on my special report for gold and gold stocks. Have a great day.